Hi, friends. As promised, I am sharing with you all this self reflection feedback sheet that I cooked up this week for my upper level students. And just to give you a little bit of background, they had to write about what they did over the summer. So that's one of my um, sort of staple beginning of the year. Well, not beginning, not exactly beginning of the year, but like maybe third week into the school year. We talk about, we're kind of reviewing and reviewing what they learned last year from their level 3 class or even their level 4 class. And then we're talking about what we did over the summer. And so this was, they had to write 5 things they did over the summer, and they had to make sure they included elaboration, so they couldn't just write, I went to Hawaii or I went to Indiana. A lot of our kids go to the Midwest. So they ended up having to write where they went and just a little bit of context of what they did. And so for the feedback, what I normally do is I'll meet with students and I'll focus on maybe one item on their paper. Like if they got something wrong, I'll focus on one. I'll circle it, we'll talk about it. And then what they have to do is they have to actually find similar errors, and then they make those corrections. Now, that is also a really great way, but it's time consuming. It's time consuming because you have the classroom management aspect. Like, what if you meet with like 15 kids, but by the time you get to the 15th kid, the other kids are like, okay, what do we do now? So you kind of have to have like lots of, you know, other activities going on in the background, and it just can be overwhelming. So this was one way to, number one, help students to become sort of experts in their own learning or invested in their own learning. And number two, it was to really save time. So I had them do 2 things. The first was they had to look, and I have some examples here. Um, they had to look at the errors, and they had to write the first sentence here. So in this box, they write the first sentence, and then they had to rewrite the sentence correctly. So you may be thinking, well, if they got it wrong the first time, how are they gonna figure it out? So I allow them to use tools in order to do this. They could use word reference. A lot of them use word reference, or they could use AI. I am totally okay with students using artificial intelligence in class, especially if it's to help, if it adds value and it sort of adds that layer to what they've already done. So just to clarify, they're not using AI to actually write the original sentences. They're using it after they've produced the sentence to show how they could have, like what the error was, and then what they could have done better. So they have that, and they obviously they love it because they're like, yes, these are tools, and I'm showing them a positive way to actually use AI in class. And then they have to talk about here, explain what they did wrong the first time. And this really helped because when I talked to students afterwards, when we sort of debriefed, a lot of them were like, oh yeah, I messed up on the accents. This like totally changes the meaning of the word. And so I was like, yes, that is what I want to get across to you guys. So obviously it's more powerful when they're doing it, when they're sort of boots on the ground and they're doing the research, and they are sort of, finding and correcting their errors. Now, let's say I did have a few students who like did an amazing job, and they were able to write about what they did, what they did in the summer. They added a lot of context, and I wanted them to think of, okay, how could you, number one, how could you have elaborated more? So then they get to choose a sentence from their assessment, and then they sort of they rewrite that sentence, expounding on whatever they wrote. So they're doing a little bit more elaboration, or they are swapping out words and using more sophisticated vocabulary. So one such example is, I notice a lot of kids use interesante, and I told them, okay, well, that's where you can start. You look at a synonym, use another word, try to sort of level up with the vocabulary. And they ended up using words like fascinante, one kid was like cautivador or something. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, this is what I'm looking for. So this overall was just a really great activity. Oh, they write here what their action plan is for their next assessment. And it's funny because I just wanted them to like be reflective, and I had this extra space at the bottom. But overall, it was a really great activity, and I felt the students really that they had an opportunity to sort of look at look at what they did wrong and then make corrections and be reflective about it. So there you go. I hope that this um, that you can use this in class. Feel free to. I'm going to share the edible version so you can just kind of like tweak however you like. I have other templates that I'm working on too. I just want to like I want to cycle. I did one this past did activity this past week as well with my upper level my dual credit students, and it was a speaking collaborative activity, and I'm telling you all, I'm just like, this is the way that I'm teaching from now on. So I'm going to try with a few more classes, sort of like beta test it so I can kind of figure out like what are the weaknesses of this tool. But it's looking really good. And so once I'm done, I will share that as well. So have a great day.